Hey everyone, welcome to Rolling Credits. It's going to be a podcast about movies, TV shows, pretty much all things entertainment. So this is our inaugural episode. I'm Seth, also known as According to Seth, and we have a few other members here who'd like to introduce themselves.
I'll go first. My name's Patrick Shear. I the resident Vegas guy out here, kind of similar, somewhat of a newbie to the whole movie talk and everything, but excited to kind of get into some rants, debate some things, have some hot takes.
Hey, Gums, you want to go?
For sure. So my name is Mark Gums. Nice to meet everybody out there. I'm super excited to be here. I've been begging for months to get on something like this with According to Seth. I'm so excited. Other than that, you can refer to me as Gums. We're going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about games. We're going to talk about a lot of weird stuff. And we're going to have fun with it.
And I'm Kirby, resident nerd. Do everything from video games, movies to music, and definitely excited to start talking about pretty much whatever. See where this goes.
So
Seth, you want to
that's our
take it away?
lovely crew. Yeah, that's our lovely crew right here. Excited to bring this to you guys. And with Spider-Man No Way Home coming out Friday, I thought, what better topic than to talk about Spider-Man? And later on, we're also going to talk about some of our favorite movie theater snacks because that movie's got to be seen in the theaters. So without further ado, let's get it going. The first topic that we had is, which Spider-Man actor is your favorite and why? So we'll kick it off to you, Pat. Let's see what you have to say here.
I think that I don't know if this is necessarily a hotter take or if it's just something like I'm like almost sounding like a zoomer here or something like that. I do think Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man. I grew up with Tobey Maguire and everything, but I do think just I like Tom Holland's. Maybe it's just the writing in the newer universe. I think that the more movies he's done, it's been better. Where versus like kind of like the Tobey Maguire movies, like they really kind of taper off. They kind of jump off a cliff a lot later, and that kind of we'll get into that a little bit later too. But that kind of left a bit of like a sour taste in my mouth with that. And I just think Tom Holland fits the bill right. I like the way he plays that character. It all kind of fits in, and I just think that he's just kind of more the epitome of what I see out of a good Spider-Man.
So you're saying you don't like emo Spider-Man?
Yeah, and that's yeah. Don't even get me fucking started on that. I think that's where like I'm just like, what am I? Towards the end, I'm like, what am I watching? Like, yeah,
You know what you're watching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Good Spider-Man film.
Yeah. You're watching one of the most memed scenes in all of cinema.
Each facts.
Guys got some killer dance moves though. That's for sure.
I will say too though.
Fair.
I think a close second for me. I think that actually gets is gonna probably not necessarily at the top of everyone's radar. I loved the Miles Morales in the Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah.
I thought that I think that I don't know if I'm gonna say that he's my favorite Spider-Man or whatever, but I think that that's a great entry into like that universe that I think that can really be explored into even the more live action movies.
It's a good point.
Fair.
I didn't know whether to rule out Miles Morales, the animated Miles Morales, or not. Simply because, or even bring in the video game version of him in that storyline. I didn't know whether to rule that out or not, so he's kind of in the back of the book. As far as Spider-Man, specifically Spider-Man, I will go Tom Holland. I'll go all day, and mainly because they think he murdered Mysterio. And I think just like when Superman murdered the general, I think once you do something like that, a casual murder scene, even if it's faked and whatnot, you're at the top of my list. It's not very often superheroes murder, and I gotta say, there it is. He did it. So
it adds a little darkness to that universe, huh?
it does.
Yeah.
It adds a little realism, a little grittiness, and once you do that, then that means you can bring a little bit more gritty things as well, right? Like Blade, he can enter now. He can do some things he shouldn't be doing. So.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
definitely.
I think that makes it so ready for this next movie is that building off of that concept, like from where Mysterio's storyline ended. I think I'm really excited for that on Thursday.
Yeah,
I was a little bummed. I was bummed that they killed him off because Mysterio's one of my favorites, especially from the animated show, man.
No, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's Marvel.
with the whole multiverse thing, you don't know if he's actually gone.
you don't know.
True.
He could be coming back.
Fishbowl Mysterio might be back, man. You might get the classic '90s fishbowl going.
What about you, Kirby?
I've got to say, I mean, I'm going to kind of echo everybody else. I mean, just for full package, it's got to be Tom Holland. Not only due to like the advancement in technology, so the movies look better, they're just better written. Um, I just think that he portrays kind of both sides of that coin really well. He has like the awkwardness of what Peter Parker is in a lot of the comics, and in like the previous movies, in the the animated shows, and then he's got just like the moves for Spider-Man, and again that comes up to like technology stuff like that. But I think he portrays both sides of that really well. So I
Yeah.
gotta go with my boy Tom.
Are we clean sweeping Tom Holland here?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
It is a clean
Yeah,
sweep,
'cause-
but I do have my knocks on Tom Holland.
Okay.
And I know this
Yeah.
is going to sound a little weird, but one of the things that I have a knock on Tom Holland is going to be his height. And I know that's going to sound weird,
Huh.
but I feel like he won't be able to grow physically into Spider-Man later. So you kind of got to cut him short eventually. And I know that's going to sound a little weird and off-putting, but I want you to think about that. If Tom Holland's always shorter than everybody around him and he's supposed to be Spider-Man, Wolverine, he's 5'7" in the comics. Like, that would make a lot of sense. Can Spider-Man then pull off a 5'7"? Can he do that? Or does he have to be a little bit bigger? What do you guys think?
So you're almost kind of saying like because he's like almost like a teenager now, and you can really tell he's a teenager. Like you almost can't picture him as like an adult Spider-Man.
You can't.
Huh.
And I don't think he'd grow height-wise to get there, because he's like real life, what, 20, 22, 23?
Yeah, early 20s or
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's early 20s.
So he's done. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I would say that is a good point. I feel like though, like Marvel does a really good job of keeping it in like in that realm of like him being younger and like his height. Because like I forgot who it was, but somebody in one of the Avengers movies was like always shorter. And then in the movie he looked bigger. So it's like I feel like they can fix that up a little bit.
Yeah, like camera angles and kind of that kind of stuff. But kind of to Gums's point though, is that they do a very like they definitely make it very targeted that like Tom Holland Spider-Man is a teenager, he's a high school kid, right?
Yeah.
And so like inevitably that will need to evolve to be, is he a college kid, or is in some way, shape, or form. I know like with him now being announced as Spider-Man, like the idea of him being in high school anymore, it kind of runs a little off. Like they're not gonna like just casually throw him back at high school, right? Like when you know who he is, but like it presents an interesting point, because I know he just signed 3 more movies.
Yep.
But even Tom Holland himself has said that he can't be Spider-Man necessarily forever, right? In terms of exploring like the Miles Morales thing he's mentioned before and whatnot. So like I think Gums might have a point here. I think he does have a pretty targeted expiration date on his time as this character.
Yeah.
I feel like most of them do, which is kind of like what brings me to my next question is like, who is like the better Spider-Man and who is the better Peter Parker? Because like, what if you just brought back one of them to play Spider-Man? Switch it out. In the fight scenes, you have a taller Spider-Man. It works, right?
See, I actually thought a lot about, that particular point. If you could separate the two, I still go with like the modern technology, modern Spider-Man for actual Spider-Man. So Tom Holland, just the way that the Spider-Man sequences are written, the way that they're shot, the way that technology takes over. I still like him for actual Spider-Man, but for Peter Parker, I gotta go with my boy Toby.
Yeah,
that's the original for me. He captures that awkwardness. He captures just that whole essence of who Peter Parker is. And I feel like just his like that classic story of Uncle Ben dying and stuff, he really portrays that whole aspect of the character really, really well. I'm going to be totally honest, I think I've watched the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies maybe once, so they're not really as fresh to me, but for Peter Parker, I've got to go with Maguire.
Recency bias blasphemy.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Gums, what would you say?
Go ahead, Gums.
Huh?
I said, Gums, what would you think?
Oh, I'm gonna go. Best Spider-Man's gonna be Holland because he's got the good suits. Like we finally get to see different suits. We finally get to see different abilities. And I think just like it's just like having new toys, right? So when you watch that, you feel like you've got a new toy when you see a new Spider-Man come in. Granted, Toby did have Venom suit. You know, he
Mhm.
had Venom, and I love that. And I really wish that storyline would have been better. And I'm gonna go against the grain here. I'm gonna say Andrew Garfield.
Mm.
Now, the reason that I say this is because one thing I think the movies miss a lot is that Spider-Man is like a level one genius. Spider-Man is actually a genius, and he's supposed to
Mhm.
be up to par, pretty dang close to um, a lot of the geniuses in that universe. Like he's top 20 or something like that. And I don't think they portray that very well in Spider-Man and kind of talk about that. And when he develops his web shooters and things like that takes genius level stuff. He's working in like an bioengineering lab with like these top level scientists. So I do like Andrew Garfield because he was a swaggier kid, and a lot of people portray Peter Parker as nerdier. But in
Mhm.
my mind, when you get superpowers, I'm not sure that the nerdy kid is going to stay nerdy. I'm gonna think this guy's gonna take his powers on a test run. His confidence is gonna be elevated, and he's gonna make a lot of mistakes because of this elevated confidence he now has. And what I seen from the Andrew Garfield version was uh, that he had this swagger about him. He may be a little bit too. He might have been a little bit too cool for the school. But I kind of love seeing that different side that he wasn't just going to be beaten up and pretend all the time to get beaten up. He wasn't playing like this Clark Kent role, and that he was a little bit more emotional than the rest of the Spider-Man. He had a little bit more of an emotional story and got to really like outburst and be emotional because that's got to be an emotional state you're in with that much change. So that's why I go Andrew Garfield, and I think that's against the grain. I don't think a lot of people like him.
I definitely think it's against the grain. I'm actually really glad you said that because I was really certain that everyone was gonna say Toby for their favorite Peter Parker, and I was going to too. But I was gonna ask the question, why is it not Andrew Garfield? Because I thought for sure we were gonna clean sweep Toby. Because I actually agree with you. I do like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, like his portrayal on Spider-Man, like in and of itself. I think he was just plagued by it just not being that great of a written movie. Like
Mhm.
the movie just wasn't as good. Like Jamie Foxx's as the villain in that one just wasn't as compelling. It didn't kind of hit quite the same. But as a Spider-Man and a Peter Parker, I actually agree with you. I do think Andrew Garfield's was pretty good. He just kind of got the short end of the stick of what movie he's in. Like, it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
I have to agree with that too. I mean, I do love Toby for sure. Toby was like a great Peter Parker. I think the reason I lean more towards Toby is because I feel like we got like the full on backstory, where we
Mhm.
like we're spending time with Aunt May more, spending time like in his neighborhood versus like
Mhm.
with Garfield, we definitely did get that like scientist, like genius side more because we saw him in like lab Oscorp and things like that. Um, but yeah, Tom for sure he is Spider Man. Those suits and the new suits in the new movie look great. I don't know if you guys saw the trailer, obviously, but
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
look
Mhm.
awesome.
I gotta
Yeah.
say too, like looking back on like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and stuff like that, kind of like on that point of like, yeah, you didn't get as much of like the genius side of Spider-Man. But if you kind of recall, like those like early 2000s movies, they really liked, especially in like comic movies, they really liked making the protagonist look like a nerdy outcast and then
Oh
make
yeah.
him
Yeah.
do really cool things. And Toby, like they really abandoned a lot of like the Spider-Man aspects of that and just leaned into that kind of storyline because I think that's just what
Mhm.
was really much more popular at that time from like a protagonist like storytelling perspective.
Mhm.
So like I think a lot of times later in those other Spider-Mans, especially when you get to Tom Holland, it's like Tom Holland is more of a traditional Spider-Man in terms of what you see from a comic book status and a canon status, whether it's the suits, who he is as an individual. He's smart as hell,
Mhm.
single parent home from just from New York and just kind of gets it done. But yeah, it is kind of, it's just a much different way of telling stories from 2001 to 2021.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. And
graphics changed a lot.
to Gums's point, I texted Seth, a picture last night. I was watching uh what was it, Far From Home, just brushing up for today. And there's that, just talking about how Spider-Man's supposed to be one of like in the top 20 of like just smartest people in that universe. And a big theme for that movie is like who's going to be the next Iron Man, who's replacing Iron Man, and then you have that one scene in the plane when he's like constructing a suit, and he's using that virtual workstation to kind of build it, and you see Happy look at him, and it's that moment of like, okay, that's who is supposed to replace Iron Man. That's the genius right there. So I do think with Tom Holland, you get like the best of all worlds. You have like the awkward kid, you've got the genius, you've got the actual Spider-Man side. So I mean that goes back to our point of why we kind of clean sweep him for our favorite Spider-Man. But
They
yeah,
need to give him some more of that genius side. And I was gonna
yeah,
say, so one of Gums's points about, bringing Venom in, I think obviously, I don't know if you guys all saw Venom, but supposedly the rumors are anyway that Venom's gonna be fighting Spider-Man at some point in the next few years. There's
hmm
been like hints about that. So I'm really excited to see a Tom Holland versus freaking Tom Hardy. I think that's gonna be really, really cool.
I haven't seen the new Venom yet, and it's actually on my list of things to do. I think Lauren and I are going to try and watch it within the next week or so. But yeah,
I definitely enjoyed it
I'd be
more
excited
than
for
the
that.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and without
Good to
spoiling
know.
too much, it does introduce that idea
Yeah.
for later films and whatnot. And I agree with you, Seth. I think that's going to be some really worth watching here. I think that while I didn't necessarily love the second Venom movie, I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. I thought that the way that it does kind of make that connection is going to be interesting to see in some later movies.
Mhm.
Which brings me to my next point. With No Way Home bringing in the multiverse, I feel like that's going to be a good way to branch in all of these other things like Venom. I mean, Blade, all kinds of different
Oh
things.
yeah.
So, how do you think all that's going to affect the future of Spider-Man?
Hmm.
Do you think we're going to get like different versions of the villains?
Which that's kind
Oh
of the
yeah.
that's kind of the question, right? Is like is this multiverse theory kind of almost presents like a Doctor Who style setup for Spider-Man right
Yeah.
now, where
Yeah.
it's like it can be anybody, they can have any villain, they can they kind of just kicked the door off the hinges here and said
Mhm.
anything really goes. So yeah, I think you're gonna see just a lot of old repeated villains that come in on different storylines. I think you're gonna see Spider-Man almost have its own kind of MCU universe outside of the MCU, which
Mhm.
could be kind of cool to see.
To that point about this multiverse, like I think it's bigger than we're even thinking. I think they've plotted some stuff on us that we're not really thinking about. Morbius, that's supposed to be coming out soon.
Yep.
Oh, looks
That's one of
great.
Spider-Man's main villains.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They could easily tie this thing in with this. So they've got like a lot going on. It's going to be about the execution.
Yeah.
And I'm nervous about execution. Although they did very well, like that whole studio's done very well. With Endgame and other Marvel things, there's just so much going on that it makes me nervous. I mean, you could even tie it into the animated. You could bring the animated to the real world, vice
Mhm.
versa, and this could be some type of Looney Tunes action going on here. We could really do a lot with this. So I think they got to tie it in heavy. I think it's a very safe bet to do it with Spider-Man, though.
Mhm.
He's beloved. He's kind of hard to mess up, and they're playing on our nostalgia. Um,
Yeah.
they're totally playing on our nostalgia. We kind of grew up watching multiple different versions of Spider-Man. In fact, and so I'm excited. I'm optimistic, but I just think that's such a big world they're introducing that they could just say, hey, they could cherry pick, so to speak, what they
Mhm.
want to show us, what they know we'd be hyped about, and then they've got to tie that all in with everything else Marvel. So let's see
Yeah.
what happens.
I would love to see Spider-Man Noir show up just in a live action.
That would be great. Just Nicolas Cage,
Why
man.
not?
Get Nicolas
Yep,
Cage in it. I'm in.
Get old Nick Cage
Yep.
on this movie. Oh, I'd love it.
Oh
That's
man,
great.
kind of to your point there though, I agree because it's just like I am somewhat nervous of it, but I'm not necessarily nervous about the Spider-Man movies themselves, like their actual title being in that universe. I'm a
Mhm.
little nervous about the external films connecting with them and those not hitting the same way to be able to introduce that in. kind of like the Morbius movie, for example. I'm a little nervous that movie falls flat on its face, and they're trying to connect that in with the Spider-Man universe, that it just doesn't connect well. I'm not necessarily nervous for the Spider-Man movie that includes Morbius later. I'm more nervous that Morbius falls flat on his face and we don't like that character in the universe.
So
And,
to those points, I will say I think I like all of those, issues are for sure a concern because Sony just has a way of meddling, and Sony is very different from, the Marvel Spider-Man that we're getting.
Yes.
I mean, you can easily see like that issue with the Spider-Man trailer where they remove them and then you have Lizard getting punched in the freaking face and by some invisible
By
person.
nothing.
By nothing. Some might think it's John Cena. I don't know.
John
You can't see
Cena.
it. But
I think
I
you
just
mean
like-
Peacemaker.
yeah,
Yeah, so get him just randomly in wrong
I think,
universe,
like-
buddy. Get out of here.
for those all to be successful moving forward, like Sony just needs to like work better with like Marvel Studios and like figure out a thing, because like what Marvel's doing has made Spider-Man so much more successful than it could have ever been.
Absolutely.
And there's so many like different like villains and characters in the Spider-Man universe that are just so amazing that we haven't seen yet. Like I want to see Scorpion. I think that would be amazing. A live action Scorpion. He was one of my favorites from the animated show and comics.
Yeah. I feel like that. I just instantly got a mental image of the Scorpion King played by The Rock.
Yeah.
I just really, I hope it's not like that. I hope he's
Bring in
not
The
like
Rock,
that.
baby.
Oh,
but I'm
dude,
down to have The Rock
The
in the
Rock in
MCU.
on this,
I'm
yeah.
in on that. Like,
I mean, right now everything he tends to do is just gold. So
yeah, he
Bring
can
him
do
in,
no
bring him
wrong,
in.
right? Bring him in.
Yeah.
So
oh, go ahead.
with these new movies, am I the only one that's like, hey, there's you're bringing in a lot of villains here. How are we going to share the screen time? How am I going to be invested in these characters? Like coming from nowhere, what should I expect? You know what I mean? Is anybody else feeling that way? Like,
Well, it is 2 hours and 30 minutes, so it is a long film.
Oh, is it really? It's a 2.5 hour film?
I
Yeah.
didn't see that. Yeah, that's
Oh,
new to me.
wow.
It
Okay.
is a long film.
I hope
Yeah.
it's just part
Fair.
one. So
Yeah.
I know, really. Yeah.
Well, and
Well,
it's
I
too,
feel
it's
like it
like
has
you
to
can
be.
definitely tell in the trailers, Doc Ock gets the most screen
Yeah.
time.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
right? In terms of that, I just from like seeing on that. So, but I am curious to see how they do like Green Goblin and like all these other like from like what is it now? 6 other movies or something like that from like that we have for modern Spider-Man kind of thing. It's I don't know how they share all that screen time, and those are big name actors. Like how
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
might
you
be a
have to
couple
assume
egos
that
involved.
like a lot of these villains that they're bringing in are from these past movies, so there's already an established story with them. So they might just be playing off of that because we know who Dr. Octopus is. We know who the Green Goblin is from these previous movies, from the cartoons, everything like that. So maybe they're just going to rely on the fact that people probably already know their backstories, know who they are, with maybe a little bit of intro or something like that. So that's entirely possible that they play up that point.
Yeah.
I want Kirsten Dunst to show up. MJ.
Oh yeah, yeah.
oh goodness. Okay, I'll shut it off. I'll shut it
I'll
off.
shut
It's
it
like,
off.
nope, shut it down. No, we're
Yeah,
not
I'm
doing
out.
this.
Shut it down.
Just shock
You know,
it.
Guy in row G, seat 5 says shut it down, please.
Yeah.
I'm most excited for, I think, though, is like the reactions of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire seeing Tom Holland's Aunt May.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Have they? So
That's
have
not
they
who we got.
full, Have they
Yeah.
full confirmed that they're in this movie?
I mean, if it's 2 hours and 30 minutes and all the other villains are in it, they have to be.
I better at least get like a callback or something,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I don't think they've officially announced it, but I think there was a leak, right, or something like that. Somebody posted like the cast or something like that, and they were listed. So
Yeah, from what I was reading too, they Tom Holland has a group chat with the other Spider-Man, and so it's a Spider-Man group chat. So I'm assuming, being that close, they're working on it together. They're probably in here.
that sounds lit. A Spider-Man group chat. Fucking,
I
I
know.
want
Yeah.
in on that.
I want in on that. I want to know that
Be down.
conversation. So, with that being said, what is your guys' favorite Spider-Man film? And I'm gonna go off that here and I'm not including it as like the live action, because Into the Spider-Verse is by far one of my favorite Spider-Man films out there.
Mhm.
But if we're going like for the live action for the MCU purposes and things like that, I gotta go. You know, Far From Home because I love Mysterio. I thought that movie was just really, really, really done well, and like
Mhm.
the mythical aspects of it, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I was totally gonna say the Spider-Verse was what my favorite too. I fucking
Mhm.
love that movie.
It's
I
so
think it's
good.
great.
Mhm.
For live action, favorite Spider-Man movie, this one was a tough one for me because like it was like the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. I think is obviously it's a classic in and of itself,
Mhm.
and so I really struggled with really either doing that one or something like Far From Home. But I think I'm gonna go with the first Spider-Man movie that Tobey Maguire did. Just the
Mhm.
way they did Green Goblin with Willem Dafoe, and everything, and just the way that kind of storyline kind of brought together. It is a classic movie in itself, even if Tobey's not necessarily my favorite Spider-Man. Um, it's a bit of a nostalgia hit for me. I can acknowledge that, and I do think that the newer movies are better. But man, it's just a classic movie. It's a nice feel good, superhero gets his way kind of movie.
Mhm.
How many films did Garfield get? Did he get two?
He
Two.
only got he
Yeah.
got
He
two.
got two.
He
Okay.
got two. He got two.
Um, I got to be honest. I'm going to do this segment by segment. I'm going to say for Tom Holland, I'm going to definitely say Far From Home was amazing. I
Mhm.
think that was the one. I got to think for Andrew Garfield, his first movie was the best one for him. Tobey Maguire, I'm actually going to go Meme City on this one. Um, it's just because Venom. Like I love Venom. I love anti-heroes in general. You're gonna through this podcast. That's my stuff. If they could throw Spawn somewhere, we'd be ready to
Oh
go.
Oh,
yeah,
so
yeah,
down for
Um,
that.
so
yeah.
so that's what I've got for that. And I did it like that because I can't like I'm gonna have recency bias. The
Mhm.
visuals are too good on Holland's. The writing is too good. It's funny, but it's not over the
Mhm.
top. Like I can't do that to these folks. And then I've actually watched like the 1970 Spider-Man when I was a kid, and I gotta say, it still cracks me up to this day. He doesn't speak. The audio is amazing because it's always playing some theme songs, and then he just poses like every time he gets into the scene. He just poses, and it's just like some type of action pose, and then he does whatever he's gonna do, and it just cracks me up. Even if you watch it to this day, like shout out to 1970 Spider-Man, or it
Right.
might have even been earlier than that. But that's how I divvy it up. I'm not gonna just pick one over the other because I think the timelines were different, the cinematography was different. That's how I choose to pick them.
Huh.
Before you get going, Kirby, I have to give Gum some crap here because how are you gonna pick emo Spider-Man over
Dude,
all of his other movies, bro?
because emo Spider-Man was the only one that took a risk. Emo Spider-Man said, "I'm gonna step out here. Like Venom's within me. I'm a little weird. Like I'm doing some weird stuff. I'm snapping my fingers. It's West Side Story in these New York streets." And I was just kind of like, "This is crazy. Like what they're doing, trying to do with Spider-Man is crazy. They're pushing the envelope." And I think if they wouldn't have pushed the envelope, we wouldn't have what we had today. So I'm giving it its respect in that way.
Okay.
I just think in that trilogy is just the early because that third one where with Venom, in my opinion, I just think it falls on its face. It's just not for me. It's not. I
James
do get they definitely took a jump on that in just like a different because it was also a different take on Venom as a whole too as the anti-hero in and of itself. But it's just like I don't know. I couldn't deal with emo Spider-Man. And that's part of my Toby issue is when is the emo Spider-Man and stuff like that. It got too kind of weird all over the board. I was like, this isn't Spider-Man for me. And so
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
like kind of where it just kind of turned left. And that's why I kind of favor his earlier movies. Whereas, with Tom Holland, I think actually some of his later movies in the series actually get better with time and obviously with
Mhm.
tech and everything. So, but
That's fair. That's fair. I've got to split that and go with Maguire's second movie, Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Um,
Doc Ock.
Doc Ock is one of my favorite villains. And
Yeah.
just outside of that, the Spider-Man part, like you're seeing, Harry Osborn is becoming distant because his father, Green Goblin, was just killed. You're seeing the troubles that Aunt May is facing. You're seeing like the toll of like what being Spider-Man is like, just really affecting Peter Parker. and I think that was, it was very well executed. It's very well written. It's got, the good action for like the Spider-Man aspect of it, but the Peter Parker aspect of it was really well developed. So I got to go with Spider-Man 2. That one I think really stands out the most to me, as just being one of the best written, and one that stuck with me the most, since the beginning of like the whole live action Spider-Man. So that's my pick.
That is a great movie.
Yeah.
I will say it's
I-
definitely kind of slept on a little bit in its own sense. The Doc Ock
Yeah.
is just such a great villain in that movie.
Yeah, and
I
just
love
like
the.
good.
I would say I love the way that you dive into that. I love the way I love what you said about that, because he's in Spider-Man 2. Now again, I'm defending Spider-Man 3, but in Spider-Man 2, you basically just said kind of the premise of what's happening in Spider-Man
Mhm.
3. It's a broken Peter Parker.
Yeah.
He's actually becoming more emotional and distraught and everything else. So if you kind of look at it from that lens and then go back in and watch 3, you can understand
Yeah.
why this guy's literally snapped.
Well,
Yeah.
from a writing standpoint, I mean, Spider-Man 3 and like, Emo Toby is the culmination of everything that has happened to him
Yes.
leading up to that movie. Because, his best friend is estranged. He's killed, like Spider-Man's killed his father. He's slowly going mad. He's starting to hear like the Green Goblin voice, like stuff like that. His relationship with Mary Jane is just on the rocks. So you can see where he would snap. So I think the trilogy is in a whole is just like really well written. But I mean, Emo Toby is just the most meme thing ever. So
Agreed.
Bringing like those 2 points also kind of like bring me back to Far From Home, and No Way Home, because I feel like they're kind of going in that direction where it's like, I got a call. Going in that direction where Tom Holland's about to lose everything. Everybody knows he's Peter, and then him going to Doctor Strange, changing everything, just brings in the multiverse. So it's basically
Mhm.
like he created this issue, and hit like the outcome of all that. I think is going to be interesting to see, especially after this movie and for future Spider-Man films, because obviously we haven't seen it yet, so we don't know what happens. But I mean, he could lose everything with all these other
Mhm.
villains coming in who are much stronger than him, and things like that. I mean, he's even come out and said it's like the most emotional film that he's done, and there is a lot of death in this, and it is like the saddest Spider-Man film he's done. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see that all play out.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Have you
it's
guys-
going to be interesting just because I know that kind of the over emotional side of Toby is where it lost me, right? Like I know like Kirby and Gums are saying like that kind of really kind of created that character a little more. I thought it was overdone, which is kind of part of the reason why I didn't like that.
Agreed.
So if that is where this is going, I think the hope is just like kind of that learn from your mistakes, right? Like kind of do your homework. Like let's make this just more engaging in terms of like I do want to feel for the losses that occur in this movie, and I completely understand why this would turn the series this way. But it's just like again, it's kind of that personal fear a little bit of like, hey, we know how this went once. When we go this direction, let's just make sure we do our homework and like get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, the writing is greatly improved. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's the writing. If they would have wrote that the right way, it might have been good. And now I'll get off Spider-Man 3 because like it's just funny to me. It's just like I just thought that they took a real good push. I agree. It's really corny. It's really badly written. But I think that was like the biggest push. Now,
Mhm.
what's super interesting is they are kind of copying though the first trilogy here. They're kind of like doing the same thing. Some funny things about Spider-Man though are like not only is he a genius, but he has one of the top level strengths in all of Marvel.
Mhm.
He's top 20. Like there is one version of the comic book. I'm wondering what's going to happen here, where I believe it is Doc Ock who takes over his body. He punches somebody in the head, basically rips his head off,
Yep.
and then goes, Spider-Man's been holding back the whole time. He's actually stronger than all of us.
Mhm.
So I now to press it back, this dynamic of I think Spider-Man in this multiverse could probably really handle these villains if he chose to, even as a teen. But is it going to be him holding back and having to make these decisions of who do I save? who gets hurt and who doesn't, and then how that destroys his psyche before we get this intertwined multiverse, right? I kind of feel like that's where that's going to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was Dr. Octopus that took over his body. Yeah, you were right on that. So, going back to, I think, Gums, you said that they were talking about, this movie that's coming up that's going to be, more emotional. There's going to be some death involved. Do you guys think they're going to kill off any of the other Spider-Mans?
I think one of them will probably go.
You think one?
I don't think both of them are going to go, but I think one of them will.
Mm-hmm.
Should we say who we
That's
think
an
it is?
interesting take.
Yeah.
So you think like they'll kill off Toby
think,
kind of thing, or they'll kill off Garfield type shit?
Yeah, I think they're gonna kill off Garfield because the guy really has nothing left at this point. I mean, in the last movie, he lost what's her face? I can't think of her name right now. But
Emma Stone's character.
Yeah, Emma Stone's character.
Yeah.
So he kind of is just there to help, and I don't know. I feel like he doesn't really have anything else left to lose at this point because his movies just ended there.
Yeah. It was Gwen Stacy.
Gwen Stacy. Yeah, that's right.
Which was great writing.
Yeah, that was solid. Yeah.
No, I think it's Toby. It's got to be Tobey Maguire.
Mm-hmm.
Why not kill off Tobey Maguire? Because that's who I'm going to feel for. If you want to jerk, you want to get some tear jerks going, kill Tobey Maguire.
Mm-hmm.
The OG kind of thing.
Kill him in an ironic way. Kill him in this weird way, and then have what's his name? Andrew Garfield. We're really opening up the universe here, but Spider-Man 99. 2099. Why can't we just bring him from the future and make it real weird? Because then he'll have some later, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you want to get some people going and saying why, you kill Toby.
I'm actually gonna disagree across the board here. I don't think they're gonna kill one off. I don't know if there's a strong enough way to necessarily write them in for you to basically just for this specific universe to basically introduce a brand new character. And because if they do, you would solely be killing a character off based on the audience's nostalgia of a previous film that doesn't necessarily exist, quote unquote, in this universe. They're feeding it in here, so it kind of does, but especially too, when you're talking generationally speaking, a good portion of these audiences, right, might be younger, maybe didn't see those movies. They would be taking a very big risk and gamble on the idea of that the audiences would be attached to this character and that they had seen. It's kind of really relies on that. I don't know if that's a risk that they would be willing to take in that sense.
I think if you kill off Toby, though, that's kind of I'm kind of expecting one of these Spider-Man to kind of take Tom Holland under his wing and show him what it really means to be Spider-Man, because he doesn't really understand that yet. And with in the other movies, they always say with great power comes great responsibility. We haven't even heard that in any of the Tom Holland films yet. We haven't I feel like he hasn't really been tested besides obviously Endgame and Thanos and all that, but being a Spider-Man in the neighborhood, I feel like those other movies, they understand what that requires. So I feel like he needs that tutoring moment.
Oh, that line's going to come back.
Yeah.
In this movie. That's coming back.
As Toby dies, 100%.
That is something that they could do with that. That is something that they could write that in.
But you guys realize though that bringing in okay, check this out. Now this is me going on the deep end. I want you guys to respond to this. Toby comes in as old man depressed Spider-Man. He's lost it all. Think about it, right? What other film is there right now where old man depressed Spider-Man teaches another Spider-Man? It's the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So then what happens is he comes from a different parallel universe. He comes in, he helps Spider-Man. He gets killed. All of a sudden, end scene goes to Miles Morales in his universe. And he goes, he's overlooking Toby, why? Right? And then that's your intro to Miles Morales. There's a lot of stuff that they could do here. Now that's my deep end quote. I'm fishing. I'm fishing hard.
I don't think you're fishing that hard, because I really wanted to kind of bring up the conversation about how Miles comes into this picture, because I think that there's no way that this universe keeps moving without. I know Tom Holland just signed 3 films, but Miles has to be coming pretty fucking soon, really
well, they
soon.
hinted at it.
Yeah,
with Childish Gambino.
Yeah,
Donald Glover.
Yeah, and didn't they hint at that in the what was the
second
one?
Homecoming.
Homecoming. Yeah.
So
But
wait, I gotta hear Kirby's take too, because we skipped over him.
No, I posed the question, so I sat out for it.
Okay.
So I don't think they're gonna kill off one of them. If they do, I do think it's gonna be Toby because of the emotional appeal to it. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be hilarious to me if it were Garfield because he would have just been shafted all the way around, just for his movies, and then this one he's the one that dies. But if they were gonna kill off one of them, I think that it would be Toby. I don't really see them doing that. If anything, they just go back to their own universes. But if they were to, and if I had a choice, it would be Toby, just for the emotional appeal.
Poor Toby.
I know. Sorry,
poor
Toby.
Toby. Poor Toby.
Sorry, bro.
Perfect.
So, with all that being said, we'll head to this last segment here. I know, obviously, when Spider-Man comes out, we'll have more to talk about. We'll break it down a little bit more. So, with it being in theater, going to see it, what is your guys' favorite snack? Like, what do you have to get when you're at the theater? Like, what's the superior snack?
Growing up, my mom was always a big person. Like she'll get the tub of popcorn and then she'll dump like raisinettes in the popcorn and kind of mix them up. Do kind of like that, like salty sweet, a little bit kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a nostalgia thing, but that's a big one for me. I think it's like either that or if you put in, you could switch out the candy if you don't like raisinettes or whatever, and do like M&Ms or Reese's Pieces and stuff like that.
I did M&Ms.
Yeah. So that was always a staple for me. But I also was a big, like, I always had to get a slushie. I always wanted to get like do the red blue mix of the icy slushies. That was a big one for me.
Right.
I mean, you can't go wrong with the popcorn. Like movie theater popcorn. Like there's just nothing else like it. It's the butter, like everything. I would throw in M&Ms, get like a Coke. And that was really my go-to. I know they had like a full assortment, like a lot of places, especially now, like have full kitchens, but there's really nothing like that, movie theater popcorn. That was really it.
In any movie theater, the item that crunches the loudest is always going to be the best. The irony is there. It's just what it is.
Yep.
So eliminating popcorn itself, because it is the ultimate, it is just the number one. You put butter and put some salt on that thing, and it's good. I'm going peanut M&Ms.
Yeah.
And I got a runner up of cookie dough bites.
Ooh, there you go. Okay.
I'm that guy. Like I had never thought to mix though my M&Ms and my popcorn, and so that's next level. And I appreciate that. I'm gonna have to bring that to the table, but that's where I'm at with the favorite snacks. That's where I'm at with my favorite snacks. Like I couldn't walk into a theater and not get peanut M&Ms. Like in fact, I probably would walk into the theater with a bag of peanut M&Ms. You know what I'm saying? I'm over here with the gallon bag. Like what are we doing, really?
I expect it on Thursday now, Gums. You better bring it to the movie. I'm expecting some peanut M&Ms.
Bring it for the crew.
What do you guys think of? I've seen people do this. Jalapenos on the popcorn.
Jalapenos.
Yeah, it seems to be like a favorite among people. I don't know why.
Really,
never tried it.
I love jalapenos in and of itself. So like, I just don't know if that hits with popcorn. I don't know if that's something.
Not sure about that one. I mean, if you're getting the nachos, then yeah, but
yeah, I just feel like it'd be hard to layer because like with the M&Ms and like the raisinettes or Reese's Pieces concept, you kind of shake the popcorn, you get Reese's Pieces all the way down to the bottom of the thing or the M&Ms, so you get a lot more kind of like mixed in throughout. Like jalapenos are gonna lay on top of that popcorn, so I think it's good for that top layer. But then am I gonna keep just add more jalapenos through the movie to my popcorn? Like what?
Well, then the popcorn gets soggy.
Yeah,
and
too.
Nobody has time for that.
Yeah.
Like,
I will say, I do wish that movie theaters had like Reese's Pieces, or not. Reese's Pieces, not like the or sorry, just like the Reese's. I can't think of like because there's too many different versions of Reese's now.
There's a million. They're all fantastic. They're all fucking amazing.
They're all good. But like the circular ones
Goated candy.
Here, not a fan. Like the bag of them. I want like the actual Reese's cups.
Oh, you mean like the unwrapped bag of Reese's
Yeah.
cups? Yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I
they got
I
like
gotta
white
say,
chocolate versions now.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I just gotta say, I'm like a big fan of the modern age thing now, where there's like a bar in like a
Yeah.
bunch of
Oh
these
yeah.
Oh
movie
yeah.
theaters. I'm fucking in,
Yeah.
and that's
Yep.
the alcoholic in me talking. Sorry, but I want to have a nice beer with my popcorn. Like,
Yeah.
do you guys have those ones? There was one in Huntington when I was growing up, like that came on like later when I was in high school, that they had the call button
Yep.
so you could keep getting food like during the
Oh,
movie.
nice.
Do those still
Oh,
exist?
yeah.
I haven't seen
Oh,
those
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're still around. We have one in Fullerton, the AMC. It has the call button. It's got the full bar. It's got the full kitchen. So the last time I went to a movie, it was Halloween, the newest Halloween, and we're sitting there, just order a gin and tonic, get like a club sandwich. Just had like a full on feast while we're watching this movie. It was great.
See, sign me
The
up for
one
that. I'm in.
The one me
Yeah.
and Gums went to closed down, so we got to find another spot. Alamo Draft
Which
House.
one?
Alamo, dude.
Oh, it didn't. I closed down. I was there not
Yeah.
too long ago.
All of them are like out of Arizona now. I looked it up the other day.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Well, there's one up. There's one up here where I'm at, over off Cactus. There's one in Omaha, Nebraska, that is still the most superior movie theater I've ever gone to. I forget what it's called. Um, but yes, they do full on meals there, but they give you the actual like lazy boy recliners
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
like an
Yeah.
actual table in front of
Yep.
you. And I'm just like, this is superior. Like, I just don't want the little seat with the little kick out lunch table stand like we're in school. They gave me a table. They gave me this fat lazy boy, and you
Mhm.
could just order whatever you wanted. It was like 6 people per row at one point. I was like,
Yeah.
this is the best.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
that's kind of like the AMC that we have here. It's like that the recliner, everything like that. It has like the attached table,
Yeah.
not like a full on table, but it's like this. You can recline back and watch the movie in comfort. So
Yeah, I think I have now hit a point in my life where if I'm going to the movie theaters, which really doesn't happen as much as I'd really like it to or whatever anymore, but those are the movie theaters I'm going to. I'm not going to
Mhm.
kind of a traditional movie theater
yeah.
anymore. It's just like if I'm making the effort down there, I'm just cashing the money on the ticket and paying for
Yep.
the snacks and shit like that. I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
be sitting in style. Like I want
Recliners
to
are
be comfy
best.
as hell.
I'll take my cookies and my beer right now at my
Yeah,
seat.
right. Like I'll still sneak in the peanut M&Ms. Like that
Oh,
sounds
yeah,
really
yeah.
good, but like just give me a cocktail with it. Like
So, Seth, you actually didn't answer the question, your own question. What's your favorite snack, by the
Yeah.
way?
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Movie theater popcorn. I love
Yeah.
popcorn. I don't know. It's just the
Sure.
nostalgia for me. It's like always been my favorite snack. But peanut M&Ms too. Like I love peanut M&Ms.
Hmm.
And I actually have thrown them in the popcorn before, and you get that like salty sweet. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
perfect. It's a
It kind of
perfect
melts
combination.
it melts the chocolate in the M&M a
Yeah,
little bit. Oh yeah.
it's great.
And Pat, actually, you touched on a question that I was going to follow up with. What's the craziest thing you've ever snuck into a movie before, like food wise?
Oh
Are you-
man.
I got a good one.
Oh yeah.
It's actually
Go
not
for it.
food, but this is gonna sound bad. But at a younger age, we were in like I think it might have been like late high school, early college, or something like that. Like the newest Pirates of the Caribbean had come out. And my buddy slipped a bottle of Captain in his pants to bring into the movie, so
Yep.
that anytime they said, "Why is the rum always gone?" we all took a shot in the theater. So we were shithoused by the time we left the movie theater. Had to get an Uber home. Like,
Yep.
We used to do that for Spiderman. Every time Toby shows up, take a shot.
yeah.
Oh god.
That's too funny. You guys are having me bring the packets of icing out of toaster strudels at this point for the popcorn alone, so might as well bring that.
Hey, there we go. Try that one. That'd be interesting.
I'm actually kind of into that. Sounds great, actually.
That's really good.
I'm sorry, I'm brainstorming.
Might be onto
I
something
don't know.
there.
I don't know, man. Like we used to sneak into the movies all the time as kids. Shit, what haven't I snuck in there, man? I've snuck in all types of food. I've walked in there with 2 full bowls of Chipotle and just ate it like out loud. And like when the guy would walk up, the guys who come and look at the
Yeah.
seats, see how filled it is, and you think like, oh God, he's coming for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to jail. Oh, too bad I'm like 25 at the time. I'm not going any damn where. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of snuck in. I've snuck in Chipotle for sure. I've snuck in sandwiches,
Mhm.
chips, candy, pops. I mean, Grandma used to take me to the movies and load me up. I didn't have a choice, So it just what it was. So we've snuck in a lot
Mm.
of stuff, and including alcohol, which is always fun. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Chipotle burrito was probably the worst thing I ever snuck in because it just went everywhere. You can't see. Um, there, there was a time in college though. Me and some buddies in the dorm. One of them had a car, so we drove. But we went to In and Out before. So what we did was is we put it by the. You know how they have like those like side exit doors near like the theaters. So we
Yeah.
put
Mhm.
all our food near the door. Opened the door, grabbed it, snuck it into the theater, and we ate In and Out during the movie.
yeah,
Did you have to like prep, like kind of walk to like see like which like theater you like what number you
Yep.
were, so and
Yeah.
figure out like what door it was? Like that's
Oh
actually
yeah.
it's actually
The
kind of
recon.
smart. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a bad one. What
Mhm.
should I call it? Oh god, what was the question I was just gonna ask? I think I just totally just lost my train of thought there. Never mind, my bad.
Taylor, what's
Um,
your snack? Or what'd you bring in?
So, I used to go to the movies a lot with my my roommates and stuff like that. And this one time, I don't remember what movie we were going to see, but my roommate's girlfriend had this gigantic purse. So we kind of same thing that you did, Seth. Like we went to In and Out, and we just layered the bottom of her bag with like burgers and
That's awesome.
fries, and then I brought in a bottle of wine with a
Huh.
corkscrew and two glasses like into her purse. So we
Fancy.
had like a full on feast, like wine,
the
burgers,
picnic.
like everything. Yeah, yeah. We the people, and this was not like a newer movie theater. Like it didn't have like the tables and shit like that. This is just like straight rows of shitty seats. Excuse my language. And like the people next to us had to hate us because we're like passing like stuff back and forth. Like we're not putting it on a table or anything. We're just like fumbling it in our lap, putting it on the seat next to us. It
Bring a
was
cutting
a
board
great
next
time.
time.
I
Bring a cutting board. You
next,
like a charcuterie board?
next time it's gonna be the charcuterie board.
Yeah, you need a TV dinner stand to bring in. It's like, why?
Oh, God, yeah.
that
Don't
one.
worry about it.
I think I've got one that folds up really nicely. I'm just gonna like bring
Yeah.
a backpack or something and just like bust out the tray table.
Dude, that reminds me. Did you guys ever watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Oh, it's the best.
Mhm.
Yeah, it reminds me of that scene of just Charlie walking up to the movie theater with the bag of spaghetti. And he's like walking up, he's like, "You can't bring that in here." No, I bought that over there. He's like, "No, I just saw you walk up with the bag of spaghetti." Puts it in D's purse. Yeah.
Yep.
Good old D.
Yeah, they don't care what you bring in there.
Yeah,
as long as
right.
it's safe.
Like,
Not too much anymore.
I mean, it's usually just some high school kid who's working just to like
Yeah.
get a job on the side kind of thing. He doesn't care if you
Yep.
brought in some M&Ms, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of determined though that if you guys get caught, I feel like you should at least try to bribe, just to see if it
Like, hey,
works.
bro, you want
before you quit,
Right.
Before you
French
give
fries,
up
though?
on it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look, you want some? And if he's like, no, well, how about $5? Abraham Lincoln says you want some, and then see if you get in that way.
so that's a good
Um,
question though. What do you think is the right amount of money to bribe the front door guy to get it done? Because you can't exceed the cost of the food, right? And then you're just like, doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
I feel
With
like it's
inflation today at 10 spot.
Yeah,
I feel like
with
it's
inflation.
difficult to pull something off like that. There's too many people working behind the counter. You're gonna have to give money to everybody.
Yeah.
You just got to give it to the guy who checks your ticket. That's
Yeah,
it.
true.
He's the only one that
Exactly.
cares.
Oh, dude, I wouldn't offer him money. I'd offer him a shot. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
bro, I'm bringing in a bottle. You want some? Like,
Just
he's
gotta bring him like
probably
a pack
like,
of 50s, like just a 10 pack of those 50 mils, and be like, "Hey, homie, like just for when
Yeah,
you're off." Like,
this kid's like 17 and he's dying to try it. So it's like,
Yeah.
hey, bro, like if you don't say anything, you can take one of these. Just shoot it real fast. Make your job so much more fun.
Bring in Jello shots next movie. Here you go. It's just Jello. Don't worry about it.
just Jello. That'd be such a that's got to be the weirdest thing you bring into a movie theater. Just brought in some
No,
Jello. Like,
Just have a bowl of pudding. Just like, all right, I got it.
right.
I would think like a full turkey would be.
Oh,
kind of
there you
off
go.
the wall.
Just like a Thanksgiving feast.
Just-
I'm in.
Oh, yeah,
Literally tearing turkey legs at you.
Carving it.
Oh, dude, you've got like the electric
Yeah.
blade. You know, you're
Carver.
carving it. You know.
Did you imagine
You get
hearing
some
that when you're at a movie
Quiet down in the
theater?
back.
Yeah.
Like a little hot pot heating up some mashed potatoes. Like, all right, who's got some?
To just find like an outlet to like do like a full crock pot meal kind of thing. Like,
movie's 2.5 hours. I can make a stew in that time. Just
Yeah.
Right? Just sit next to the outlet, plug it in.
Oh
So,
shit.
I am really excited for this Spider-Man movie. This is it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, hope you guys all enjoyed our first inaugural episode of Rolling Credits. Looking forward to the future, and next week we're going to be talking about Christmas movies, ranking some of the best, what qualifies as a Christmas movie and what doesn't. So stay tuned for that, and have a good week.
All right.
Keep it rolling.
Thanks. Yep.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
guys.
thank you.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Keep it
Keep it
rolling.
rolling. I love that.